Lather, rinse, repeat. The Milwaukee Brewers have beaten the Cincinnati Reds, and quite frankly, we're not really sure when it's going to change.
You are Locked On MLB Crossover, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome into this Locked On MLB crossover between the Locked On Reds podcast and the Locked On Brewers podcast. My name is Jeff Carr. I'm one half of the Locked On Reds podcast. And that man right there next to me, if you're watching on YouTube or if you're listening, Chuck Freimund from Locked On Brewers is joining me here today. Chuck's going to get the gloat because, that's now 12 series in a row that the Milwaukee Brewers have beaten the Cincinnati Reds. It's been a while since the Reds have beaten the Brewers in a series. We're going to definitely break that down. We're also going to take a look at a couple of interesting trends that I'm wondering if they're fads or if they're just the reality for either one of these teams. And then later on in today's show, we will be talking about what is coming next for both of our ball clubs here on this Locked On MLB crossover. We thank you for always making us part of your everyday routine. Chuck, something that's not part of the everyday routine for the Cincinnati Reds is beating the Milwaukee Brewers, or quite frankly, just getting Christian Yelich out on a regular basis. Because once again, and I promise, I said nothing at the beginning of the season bad about Mr. Yelich, and I mean, he's still something happened along the way. I don't know if he had bad skyline chili or what, but he really loves to take it to the Reds.
It's amazing. But he's been on a roll ever since a week ago Tuesday. He has been on an amazing roll. He had the walk-off grand slam against Boston on that night and had been on the road. This was during their 8-game winning streak. But yeah, it's funny. I don't think about at all when we go into a series with you guys, we've dominated the Reds. The Brewers have dominated the Reds. Oh, Christian Yelich. And then the series comes, and then you're like, oh, that's right. It seems like we just keep winning games. It's like the only team we can have real big dominance against, but I'm glad we do. I'm glad it's not the other way around, but it's weird how it is on one way.
It's strange because it seems like it's the same young core, and quite frankly, looking this up the other day, the last time that the Reds won a series against Milwaukee was actually 2022 in Milwaukee. So it wasn't even in Cincinnati. It's crazy to think that's before McLean, that's before Elly De La Cruz, that's before this young core was really going on. That team is vastly different from the team that they have on the field now. And the team that they have on the field now just has not known any success against the Brewers. There's something about it that it feels like one thing or two things goes wrong. And of course, the series finale on Wednesday seemed like plenty of things went wrong later in the game for the Brewers to get the 9-1 victory. But at the same time, like I'm looking at the 3-2 win in game one, where it was Yelich hitting the home run in the third inning and then just lights out pitching by a couple of dudes that you weren't expecting. Like Freddie Peralta pitched amazing in game two. That was not the thing. What was the thing in game one was how the Brewers were able to just shut down the Reds with not their top guys in the rotation.
And the Brewers have been doing it all year long, Jeff, and which is surprising because, you look at other teams and they have injuries, and the Brewers have one injury after another. And they're playing with guys out there, even in left field, who are not their preferred left fielders or third base. And you look around, they've had a lot of injuries, but still, then I look at you guys, I look at the Reds and I say, how are the Reds struggling? Because every year I think you guys are going to be in the mix, and it's, not that you're not, but you're 9-10 games out.
Falling out of it, man. I'm not going to lie.
No, I know. I know. And if the Brewers had not gone on this 8-game winning streak, we'd be right there with you. And I said that on my podcast the other day, but I don't get it. I don't understand. I honestly thought with Terry Francona and another year of Elly and so on, I not that I was going to pick you guys to win the division. I picked the Brewers, but I thought you guys would, and it's still a long way to go, but we're going to at least have a winning record at this point.
Right. And to be honest, it's been a lot of weird slumps, and Elly has started to really get going here recently. And actually, I mean, he's been going through a lot in his personal life. Lost his older sister over this
Mhm.
past weekend. He was finishing up this Brewers series on Wednesday, and then he was going to go on bereavement and go be with his family for I believe at least the next couple of days, and probably
Mhm.
going to miss the beginning, if not all, of the Diamondback series this weekend. But he's been going through a lot, but playing well in spite of it. But like the biggest thing has been Matt McClain, where we said coming into this season, he's back, he's healthy. This team's going to be different because he's in the lineup, and he has just hit this wall that he can't get past. I mean, he had a couple of RBIs in this series, an RBI single, an RBI ground out, and that's like the most impact he has had in like a month. He has had a huge sample size of struggle this year, and I can't. I've gotten to the point where like I've looked at every number and I've looked at everything that I can possibly find, and I
Mhm.
can't explain it.
Well, I saw your short the other day, and you were hoping. uh, I'm paraphrasing that, that the way you guys won, maybe that was going to kickstart your season a little bit, and things were going to get going a little bit. And I was a little worried, and then I saw that, and I thought, oh yeah, I'm a little worried that coming back Wednesday, that the Brewers are going to have a little bit of a hangover, and that would be it. And you were talking about Frito. Oh, maybe he's going to leave this team and all that. And I thought, oh, you're a little scaring me. I was like, oh God, I'm worried about this game now. And the Brewers came back when it was 1-0. Jeff, through 4 innings, I thought, okay, here's another one of these games where the Brewers are just going to be sitting on one run the whole game, kind of like how they set in that 3-2 lead on Monday. And I did not expect that offensive explosion. It just stunned me.
Yeah, Daz Cameron looking like his dad with that big old
Unreal,
home run there. That was crazy.
unreal. And then Mike Collins, muscling up at the ninth inning just for insurance. But
Wade Miley returning, man, he didn't look all that great there out of the bullpen. I think it's tough because the Reds had just put Hunter Green on the injured list, so they're bringing Wade Miley in for insurance. He was on the roster for the entire season up until this past weekend when
Mhm.
he chose to elect free agency. Reports were there were actually multiple teams that were talking to him about bringing him in, but
Mhm.
then whenever Hunter Green had to hit the IL again with the groin, they brought him back. And then they said, okay, he's either going to be out of the bullpen today or they're going to put him in the rotation and he starts against Cleveland next week. And so I'm not sure what the plan is moving forward now because he just got blown up there late in that game. And while it was a typical scenario of DL Hall, AKA anyone that throws an object with their left hand, shutting down this Reds lineup, like on the other side of it, it felt like the Reds had a shot there late in the game, and then it just completely got obliterated.
Yeah, the Churio hits the home run and put it 3-1, and I'm thinking, okay, are they going to set in this 3-1 lead? You guys had bases loaded with one out early in that game too,
Mhm.
and Hall was able to wiggle out of that, and then he turns it over to Priester, and Priester pitches great. So those two combined for 3 hits. I was just a little bit surprised that the Brewers were able to win that one going away. So um, I honestly, though, think that both of our teams, unfortunately, are looking toward the wild card.
Mhm.
I really do. I
I
just think that I don't see it's going to be tough catching the Cubs either way, whether you are 9 games over or are 9 games out or 5.5, 6 out. It's the Cubs. I'm afraid this is going to be their year to win the division.
I think it's crazy that they are where they are. You're almost looking, if you're a Cubs fan, you're almost looking at like what seed in the playoffs the Cubs are going to get. Like unless
Yeah,
they just go through this monumental collapse, but I don't see what that lineup is so good.
it is.
It's
I mean, like the other night, they're at Washington. It was a 3-2 game, and before you know it, you look up at the scoreboard, it's 8-3. I was like, okay, that one's over. Cubs, they're not coming down to our level. And when I say that,
somebody's
Brewers
got to
5
get up.
games, yeah, are the Brewers and Reds capable of getting 15, 16 over the 500 mark? Because I don't think the Cubs are coming down.
I definitely don't think the Reds are.
Yeah.
And I got definitely more to say about that. Me and Steve are going to discuss that on our show tomorrow for sure. But
And there was
yeah,
the
it's
Texans who came back last year. Who knows?
it's gonna be a long haul. I know that, and there's a couple of stats that point to that, and I'm curious. This is your reaction because I have real numbers that are really weird. We'll get to those coming up next. There are a lot of things in life I know about, like batting average and on-base percentage, slugging percentage, and ERA. Okay, those are mostly baseball statistics. And that's why when it comes to finances, I need help. And Monarch Money is a great help to me because it puts all of my accounts in one place. I've got my debit account, I got my credit account, I got my investment accounts, of which there is like at least one of them. But they're all in one place, and I just need one password to see it all on one screen. I'm not just financially surviving anymore. I'm financially thriving. Plus, they can help you track your spending so that you know that you spent too much on Taco Bell last month. And I'm working on it. But Monarch Money is making it easier for me to work on it. Check out Monarch Money today. Go to monarchmoney.com and use the promo code LOCKEDONMLB to save 50% off your first year. Start financially winning with Monarch Money. That's monarchmoney.com and the promo code LOCKEDONMLB for half off your first year. We appreciate you for checking out this Locked On MLB crossover between the Locked On Reds and Locked On Brewers podcast and making us a part of your everyday routine. If you are not an everydayer of Locked On Reds or Locked On Brewers, make sure you hit that subscribe button right here on YouTube or on your favorite podcast app. We're seriously on all of them out there. All right, check that. This series was interesting because the rubber match brought together a number of negative statistics for the Reds. And I want to just throw some of these numbers at you that are, they're insane. And quite frankly, they're real. They are not made up. And I don't even know that you could write this in a book somewhere. The Reds now, after having lost the rubber match, are 0-39 whenever they lose the first game of a series. For the last 39 series, they've lost the last 39 series when they lose game one.
Boy, those are some good betting numbers there to bet against.
Crazy numbers.
Wow.
And I mentioned the 12 straight series losses to the Brewers, now 13 straight. And when they're trailing after 6 this year in 2025, when they're trailing just after 6 innings, if you tune into the 7th inning and the Reds are down, they are 0-26.
So if you tune into the ball game late, and
you can turn it off and you don't miss anything.
If you're going to turn Cowboy on, you might still turn Cowboy off because you will do something else.
Right.
It's the same result after the game.
And to explain numbers like that, Chuck, like I almost want to be like, they're due, right? Like that's all I got. That's all I got for numbers like that. How do you come back from that?
That's weird. I don't know. That's a trend. That first trend you're talking about, dropping the opener of a series, that's a weird
if
trend.
they lose game one, they are over for the last 39. They're almost 40 straight. If they lose on Friday to the Diamondbacks, then they have a chance of going 40 straight series where if they lose game one, they lose the series. That is insane.
Wow. Go to FanDuel and just bet against them if they lose.
What we're saying, if you got no problems, bet against the Reds. If they lose game one of a series, bet on them to lose one of the next two because it's going to happen.
Wow, those are. I don't know how to help you out those numbers there. That's astounding, and that's some good math. Where did you get those numbers from?
It's definitely. They've been kept up with for a while now in Reds country because they're insane as far as like statistics go. And I remember a couple of years ago, like 2023, whenever this core came up, they were the cardiac kids, right? They were coming back. They made all these different comeback wins, and their pitching wasn't good, but the hitting was good enough to bail out the pitching. And now it's anything but. Now the pitching does its job almost every day. Wednesday didn't do its job, but pretty much every day the Reds pitching staff does its job, and the hitting doesn't because they are just horrible at getting those timely hits. And they've been built not like a team that has a homer-friendly park, but they've been built like a team that has to string hit after hit after hit after hit, and so they've got to play perfect baseball to get a win. It's crazy.
The Brewers' mode of winning is they feel like traffic on the base paths. And that's kind of what you're saying. See, that's what they like to do. They don't want, they're not sitting back and waiting for the 3-run home run.
Right.
kind of like their philosophy used to be. Their idea is get guys on and put pressure on the defense and get runners on and get them on and get walks and do that sort of thing. That's what the Brewers mode is. Is that so? That's not what the Reds are trying to do or accomplish here.
I think that's what they want to do. That's not what they're good at.
Okay.
Because they're league average when it comes on base percentage. They're league average when it comes to batting average. So they've got to be good at something, but they're league average at slugging as well. And their quality of contract just isn't. It just doesn't seem like they're making an adjustment to fit what it is they want to do. And it's crazy because I saw that contrast very quickly with the games between Hunter Green and Andrew Abbott, because the way that the Brewers lineup attacked Hunter Green was absolutely different from the way that they attacked Andrew Abbott. And I thought that was a really interesting thing to witness as far as how the Brewers prepare. Feels like the Brewers are like super prepared for the Reds every time they play them.
That's the one thing about the Brewers is, there's a few things to like, but I think that they don't beat themselves for the most part. They don't commit a lot of errors. They don't make mistakes. They don't do stupid things on the base paths, but they have to win that way because their margin of error is so small. They're not an overly talented team. You look at the lineup, it's not overly talented, and you're not going to get any all-stars on that team. Yeah, Christian Yelich could go on a nice run. He's going on right now, and Churrio's going to be great, but there's nobody on that team who wows you offensively. And maybe that's something the Reds, I don't watch them day to day, but how is their, do they play fundamentally sound baseball like the Brewers do? They don't make a lot of errors. They, beating yourselves, making mistakes in the base paths, getting picked off. The Brewers kind of stay away from that kind of stuff.
Yeah, the Reds have problems with that. Honestly, that was the entire reason that TJ Friedl even had that opportunity to rob Jake Bauers of that home run on Tuesdays, because Elly De La Cruz just booted that throw on a routine ground ball that Caleb Durbin hit. And that was such a bad throw. The pitch right before that, Emilio Pagan had gotten into the strike zone, but he didn't get the strike call. Like you mentioned, like the margin for error. The Reds also have no margin for error, but they do not play fundamentally sound baseball. They play a lot of very inconsistent ups and downs, peaks and valleys type game. And I think for me, at least to this point, I have seen the difference between talent and production. Because like you mentioned, like if you put the two teams on paper and you'll load up the scouting reports and stuff, like Churrio's going to be up there. You're going to have, you're still going to have Christian Yelich up there. I know that he kind of had a struggle to start the season, but we're seeing him kind of come back into his own. William Contreras is going to be up there, but it feels like the Reds have a lot of scouting reports that are going to compete with those guys as well. But the team that's getting the most production out of their players is the Brewers. The Reds have not bridged that gap between a talented player and one that produces.
I feel like anytime the Brewers hit one to shortstop, and De La Cruz made that error on Tuesday, I feel like I don't feel like the play is over when it's hitting when De La Cruz. And I love him. I think the guy has got superstar written all over him. But I think, can you imagine that guy tracking down balls in center field? Oh my God, he'd be awesome out there.
Steve would hate saying that. He hates that.
He doesn't want to go. He doesn't want De La Cruz in center.
He does. He thinks more like third base or something like that. But I'm like, I do see his athleticism playing super well in the outfield. I think that would work.
Yeah, I just like the throw he made the other night, Jeff. I just thought it's like I've seen that out of him already, and I've seen him have errors and all that. Just think he's out of. They're trying to force feed him. Again, I'm an outsider looking at this. I just feel like they're force feeding him shortstop. Like, you're going to play shortstop. You're going to get this right, or else you're playing shortstop for us.
And quite frankly, it's something that every Reds fan thinks about pretty much any game that Elly goes off on. Every Reds fan's just like, all right, a couple more years of this and he'll be a Dodger.
Sure.
Things like that. But I think the moment that he, but the moment that he goes to another team, I think they're going to move him. I don't know why the Reds aren't considering that at least. And I think that there's something about that. And to be honest with you, it's something that I'm building on. It's a thought that keeps building in my mind the more that I watch this team, that I think the mode or the idea of 2025 for the Reds and the idea of 2025 for the Brewers is becoming much clearer. and it's very different. And I want to talk about that next. Get the supplies you need from the site that's made for the skilled trades. Supply House. Whether you're in plumbing, HVAC, or electrical, you can get exactly what you're looking for with just a few clicks over at supplyhouse.com. They've got over 200,000 parts available for you to choose from. They've got over 400 top brands that provide them, and they've got real people to talk to every time so that you know you're getting exactly what you need, exactly when you need it. They ship from coast to coast, and it's very easily delivered. Plus, they have this Trade Master program that if you sign up for it, you can get a dedicated phone line and free shipping on every order. Supply House makes it so much easier for you to get your job done. Check out supplyhouse.com, and you can use the promo code SH5 for 5% off your first order. Plus, join that Trade Master program today and see how easy it can be to get the right parts with supplyhouse.com. If you can't watch us on YouTube, you can always listen to us on your favorite podcast app. Literally, Locked On Brewers, Locked On Reds. We are on all of the podcasting apps out there. Check us out today. Also, make sure you check out Locked On MLB Game Night. They watch every game, every night, so that you don't have to. You can just watch them, and then they'll tell you about all the big games and what you missed. And it's a great show every single day, even Saturday and Sunday, on the Locked On MLB YouTube feed and Locked On MLB audio feeds as well. So, okay, Chuck, I mentioned, I think these two teams are headed in different directions. I think that the Brewers are gunning for a wild card spot. I think they've got a shot, depending on how the Cubs continue to maybe compete with the Cubs at the top of the division. I just think that they do the most with the least in the division. Like, I don't think there's a lot to be worried about. It seems like whoever they bring in, pitching, hitting, the Brewers just seem to get the best out of those guys. And I think that that is a huge testament and something that, quite frankly, I'm jealous of, because I don't think the Reds have gotten there yet with their talent. And I think the reason for that, as much as the Reds would never have said this on opening day, is because this is Terry Francona's first year. He came into the Reds and he swore up and down anybody that asked him, no, I did not make demands on them. I did not say, you've got to spend X amount of money on the roster. You got to go get this guy. You got to go get this guy. He said, I didn't say that. I'm excited to manage this team. But I think that's because he was going to manage this team this year and figure out what it is he needs and who it is he can trust, who it is he can work with, and who it is he needs to replace. Because I think that any good manager understands that you don't understand your personnel from day one. You've got to see it in action. And the more that he's seeing guys in action, the more that he's testing guys in certain situations, he is understanding who he can trust and who he can't. And I think because of that, the rest of this season is going to be a little bit more about evaluation for the Reds, less so about trying to make the playoffs.
See, I feel like my theory on a manager is this: there's very few guys out there, in past or present, who have been difference makers as managers. And I feel like Francona, he's had some pretty good teams in other spots. Yeah. He's had some pretty good talent in some of those other spots. One guy who I think is old school, Sparky Anderson. He's in Tony La Russa, but I thought those are two guys who I thought Sparky, where it was Detroit or Cincinnati, no matter what team he had, they were going to overachieve and be real good. Sparky's teams. And of course he had the big red machine, but I don't know. I just think the manager thing, I mean, Pat Murphy got his first managerial job at 65 years old and won manager of the year last year, but they had a lot of things come together for them. They had a lot of things come. So I think a little luck is involved as well, but you need guys, you need players, you need guys who are going to produce. You got the greatest, you got Sparky Anderson, but your guys still got to produce.
That's the hard part. And that's something that a lot of Reds fans will misquote a little bit. And quite frankly, I don't remember the word for word quote, but like people would always ask Sparky about, being a really awesome manager and how his career went. And he's just like, pointing at the guys on the field. And he's just like, it's easy when I got those guys. Like, that at the end of the day, it's about the guys on the field. And I think that the Reds are learning this, not as if they didn't already know it, but it seems as though their actions show they didn't necessarily know it, because when they moved on from David Bell, they said all these different things about underperforming and missing out on one-run games and all this other stuff. That stuff still persists. And I don't think they're going to blame Terry Francona for it, because, well, he just started. So I think they've got to look now at the roster. They maybe even need to look at the front office. Is the front office set up the correct way?
Well, that's the thing. That's what the front office there plays a big part of this.
Yes. And I think that is probably the biggest difference between the Brewers and the Reds, is that I feel like the Brewers have really put together an amazing front office.
And they have. And like, there's some things I disagree with the Brewers. Like tonight, Andrew Monasterio is in a leadoff spot. Guy's hitting like 167. Why are we betting that guy in the leadoff spot? But he comes up with an RBI base hit. It's like Daz Cameron batting in the fifth hole. All right. Why are we batting this guy fifth? We have the Brewers put together some unusual, just bizarre lineups sometimes. And then but they won 9-1. So I can't. So I was already after Wednesday's game, Jeff, I was like, man, this lineup, if they lose, I'm just going to destroy the Brewers put out this lineup. And then they come up and score 9 runs. So I'm like, well, I guess I can't do that. That's not going to be
I think the moral of the story is anytime we think something's going to go right, just prepare for it to go wrong. And then vice versa. We think it's going to go wrong, it's going to go right.
Oh, sure.
Because you mentioned I had said that about TJ Friedel, and there were so many people that were just like, bet we lose tomorrow. I was like, yeah, they were right. But I find this intriguing, and I kind of want to win in today's podcast discussing this real quick, Chuck. The idea of the schedule. I think that the Reds and the Brewers have been okay so far as how they faced each other. They faced once in April. They faced now once here in June, and they've got a couple of more series coming up. But I feel like that's been pretty balanced. But there's definitely some series, division-wise, is where I'm really focused on this, that have suffered because of the whole idea of balanced schedules. And, you've got, we got to play everybody. And that's all well and good, but I think that has come at the expense of division rivalries.
I will say this, like, I felt like some years, like we would be playing the Pirates every other day. And it's like, when you're playing the Pirates, it's like, really? We're going to
let's get excited.
Yeah, it's hard to.
Yeah.
But I feel like for the fans, since like the NL Central, we're all within travel distance. I mean, the Cincinnati is, Chicago is, St. Louis and Milwaukee. So I think these series should be played when we play these divisional matchups, should be played in the summertime. Like you guys were here in April. Well, the fans can't travel up here in April. Well, they can, but in the summertime, you have more vacation and all that. Let's make these divisional games. Let's play most of these games in June, July, and August. This one was in June. So fans could travel, and there's more availability to travel with vacation time for people who work.
I do want to get up to Milwaukee. I got to get me some spotted cow. I know that had that a couple of different times, and I know I can't get it outside of the state, so I got to get up there.
You know what's funny about that, Jeff? I've never had a spotted cow in my life.
What? Oh my gosh! I had a buddy that.
Of course, I have alcohol, but it's brewed in New Glarus. But I was like, everybody outside of Wisconsin says, "Oh, the spotted cows." I've never had one. The only beer I've ever had. I don't know. There's such a fascination for spotted cows outside of Wisconsin.
It's tasty. I'll say that. It's a delicious beverage. I know that much. But no, I wouldn't mind that. I almost wonder. It's kind of difficult to do with a 162 game season, but I almost wonder if they could create some sort of appointment viewing, kind of like that, where it's just like, this is division month or division week or something like that, where they did that whole rivalry weekend a couple of weekends ago. And, we made fun of some of the rivalries, like some of the rivalries don't make a lot of sense. But they did a lot of those interleague rivalries and stuff like that weekend. I wonder if they could kind of do that, because that's really worked for like college football and stuff like that.
Yeah, they did this rivalry weekend, a few weeks ago, like in May, and it was like, well, I mean, you didn't know about it. Oh, it is rivalry weekend? Okay. Right. But yeah, something like if they could or whatever. But I think you're right. I'm with you on that. I like the divisional emphasis. But like I said, the Pirates thing was a little off, but Cincinnati, the Cubs, St. Louis, all drivable distances. I know when you guys come up here in April, you don't notice as many fans as when you all come up here in July. You have a lot more fans. Right. You see them everywhere. You see them at the casino, and they're great fans. So we love the Red fans. Reds fans are great. They don't cause any problem. Not like those nasty Cub fans who we all hate.
I was going to say the Cubs fans are the problem. Maybe we just do it when they can't travel. I don't know.
Oh yeah, let's play the Cubs in April, so that way like during the
play
week,
them in March.
play them in March when there's still snow on the ground here. But the summer months, the teams like Cincinnati, I'm good with the fans coming here. They're great fans.
Exactly.
See the Pete Rose jerseys, the Tony Perez jerseys, Dave Concepcion's. I love them.
Hey, if you're at the ballpark a couple of weeks ago on a Wednesday night, you got a Pete Rose jersey. I got my Pete Rose jersey.
There we go.
Washed. Got some nacho cheese on it. Anyway,
Pete Rose, my 2 cents. Pete Rose, long overdue. I'm glad to see he's back.
Yeah, it's definitely a long overdue. Hoping he gets in. I know they're not going to do the whole classical era, whatever the era committee is that they call it. Modern era committee, something era committee. It's not going to be for a couple of years, but whenever they do that, I'm hoping that he makes it in and we can finally get him into Cooperstown.
Amazing. I was around. I was a little kid seeing those 70s Big Red Machine, and that guy was how he's not in the Hall of Fame is a travesty.
That's a perfect way to end today's episode. Thank you so much for checking out this Locked On Reds, Locked On Brewers crossover. We appreciate everybody who makes us part of your everyday routine. If you don't, and you want to become an everydayer, hit that subscribe button. We appreciate it if you do, because both Locked On Reds and Locked On Brewers are part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team every single day.